Hey man, how you doing? What's up? What's up, lady? What's up, individuals? What's up, demic pansexuals? I'm trying to come up with a Mark Maron thing where you name things in a way that it's like, hey, we got nicknames for the two people that listen in here. We call them Eddie and Freddie. What we call, and have a spin-off of the podcast name, so it's like we call them Hoobity Doobity, Hubity, Peabody, Scuba Divers. We'll figure that out later on. It is hot. It is hot in the city. I don't know if you're a fan of, of the walking variety. If you go outside, you'll notice that it is hot and humid. It is quite the temperature out there, so you got to make sure you're staying hydrated. Coconut water is an option. Pedialyte's a good one. I like the one that's clear because there's not poison. You know how they add poison color to make food look green or blue? As if we care what color things are, when you eat it. Like, oh, I wish this steak was a bright red. I guess they kind of are when they're raw. Why don't we use steaks to color things red? Why are we using, what do they use? Petroleum, which can't be good for the liver amongst all else. It's probably not great for the environment. But yeah, use raw steaks. And if vegans ask, say it was a beet. That's actually another thing. If you they have candy now, they've had it for a while now. I don't know who's late to the game, but they have organic candy, and they don't use poisonous colors, and they, it's all natural kind of things. So you're not eating chemicals when you don't need to be. Like last time I checked, if you're eating chemicals, you're a toddler, and you found your way into the kitchen, the bottom of a kitchen sink. We don't need to add that stuff on purpose to food just to make it colorful. I think there's some banana stuff out there where they color Tums or like Advil. Like, I'm trying to take my Advil around town and make it match my outfit. I don't care what colors the Advil is. Make it clear. Make it the exact color of poop if you want to. Like, it does not. It actually is the color of poop. If you've had a certain type of diet. But, like, you don't have to add these weird titanium, aluminum ingredients that they make boats with. That stuff does not need to be in a headache medicine. That is the thing there. But yeah, they make candy, like Black Forest. They make gummy candy, and it's flavored with like turmeric and beets. Not the band from Doug, but the vegetable. By the way, the Beats were basically just the Beatles, right? Can we agree on that? That they were more of like a 90s Beatles, which was interesting. Like, it was neat because they had like the bald drummer guy, and then Judy was a bongo playing hippie who hung out in poetry clubs, and she's like the Janine Garofalo type of the family. And then Porkchop talked. He didn't talk. He was just intelligent, and he he was conniving. Like, he could spy on Doug and like take notes on his habits. Like, he had internal monologues. I have a theory that dogs could talk. They just choose not to. Cause like, I don't need to hear what this idiot has to say. Like, I don't want to get wrapped up in a conversation with this guy. I think dogs, like, they're kind of like, I get it. I get what you're up to. I'm not trying to have a big old conversation every time I see you. I'd rather just get my bone, be in my own business. Everybody, we have a guest coming up today on the program. Very special guest. Very lucky and grateful to have him on here. Comedian Blake Wexler, who is of Todd Glass note, I guess. They both are from Philly, and I guess they kind of developed a friendship as he's starting in comedy. And Blake actually has an album, which is it's a collection of voicemails between him and Todd over the years. And it's hilarious. It stands up on its own as just great content. And, you know, if you can deliver some good content and make it last for a business day, you've done a good job. But he's got a podcast. It's called, I don't want to screw this up. It's, we might lose the guest if I don't plug it right. There's a lot of contract work going on here, so I got to make sure I do this correctly. I don't want to have my agent hear about it. I don't want his agent to get to my agent, and that agent goes through another agent who basically goes through an outsourced agency, and then they talk to like a third party distributor, and then they get to me and they say, I forgot what the question was. No, but it's basically, I just want to make sure I name his thing right. But he has a podcast called Blake's Takes. For God's sakes, it's the name of his podcast. And I don't know, I'll have to ask him about this, but I think it's kind of a take off of, he has like a regular feature he does on his Instagram, and it's basically like news things, like a talking desk kind of thing. I like to, let's name the things that are the most obvious. Daily Show, Weekend Update, anything Seth Meyers does. It's jokes at a desk about the news and topical things. It's a great kind of template for jokes, which, hey, if you can do that, and is anybody having really funny conversations in general these days? Like, outside of, hey, you get some kind of thing, you get yourself into something, and you get to do a comedy thing remotely. But I mean, where's the riff, and how are you keeping those muscles built? Are you doing some streaming type stuff? Or is it all like, I gotta catch this UPS driver's attention, and I gotta really riff, I gotta get this guy laughing, because this is my opportunity to work the comedy muscle. I feel like there might be some stagnation going on, trying to lift these comedic weights. I'm just talking to myself in my kitchen and just kind of freewheeling it. So it gives me this opportunity to kind of build some improv momentum. So that's something I recommend. That's good. Another thing I recommend, be drinking some water right now. Today I took my dog out for a walk, and she puked up, not just puke, but one of my socks. And that's a first, where it's like, hey, I didn't know a symptom of dehydration was socks, you excrete socks. I thought that was only the washing machine's problem. It doesn't work. It keeps spitting out socks. But no, that's the second sock I found in my dog. Let me explain that. The other day, I think even yesterday or the day before, she shat out a sock. It was a different sock. So now I have two mismatched socks where the other half is covered in puke and the other one's covered in shit. And I think my dog has a taste for, maybe she has a foot fetish. Maybe that's it. But she has an appetite for destruction, but she also has an appetite for Fruit of the Loom. Fruit of the Loom is a sponsor of this podcast. They make really great, obvious, bold colored t-shirts. No heathering going on. There's no any kind of fading, it's just bright neon. Whatever color that they use to make Advil with is the color of Fruit of the Loom shirts. Get them and sweat through them. It's a good use of them. Just use them as rags. Use them as sweat protectors. It is hot today, so we got to make sure we're staying hydrated. Another thing, is anybody lonely? That's a real thing. We're isolated, and it's this thing where, hey, it's not going to help if you stay on your phone. That didn't work. It worked. It's that thing where it's low fulfillment, high occupation, high stimulation, but which is fine when you're out in public and you're ignoring people. But now you're inside, you're burrowed in, you're hibernating, and all you have is a phone. Not true. This is where everyone gets to be courageous in their daily social lives, and hey, talk to somebody. That's a thing that I think that's the ultimate form of social survival right now. Is you got to put yourself out there and go talk to a stranger. Make the eye contact, say the thing. Don't worry if it's awkward. Who cares? Otherwise, you're going back to your house and just looking at the wall. And as interesting as a wall might be, doesn't keep your gears spinning. So that's something I've noticed when I've been going for a walk is people have this availability all of a sudden to kind of see who's out there. And people are wearing masks, but they're, hey, nodding heads, which is something. And I feel like Boston is pretty famous for people just not being friendly or not being warm to strangers, or not giving people the benefit of the doubt that they have good intentions or that they're just trying to do their own thing. And hey, but I think there is this thawing that's happening, and maybe it's also to do with the warm weather. People in Boston tend to get more pleasant and less grouchy. So this is this window of we're coming out of our bubbles. But also, if we're in a pandemic and we still have to go home at the end of the day, most of the day, talk to your neighbor through the fence. Hey, actually cut that mailman out of his, going through the flowness, going through the motions kind of mindset, and say, hey, Chester, where'd you get the beef? Or, I don't know, just get engaged, People that spend, every time they do their job, they were ignored anyway, and people avoid the eye contact because they're like, I don't want to, it's a lot of time to be having pleasantries exchanged. Guess what? That time is useful. You are healing yourself. You are boosting your mental health by basically lubricating your brain with social energy. So I hope that people start to become a little more communal, neighborly, something like that. I want people to start being like Mr. Wilson, or is it Wilson? Whoever Tim Allen's neighbor was, who was like you could tell he did like acid and went to like Burning Man, and then he's like, he's Tim Allen's neighbor, and Tim Allen's a reputed sexist and conservative, and he has a lot of things to say about millennials and how I make so much money that I still need to care about these kids who want to not be hurt. So be like that neighbor where you're like, I don't care how much of an asshole you are. You're there, and we can engage and, be decent people. I feel like that is the good thing. Well, I've spent, it looks like 14 minutes, which is, hey, if you're trying to just talk for 14 minutes, there's a record of talking. It's a tablature. It's a recorded version of just chatter. You are listening to the Human Variety Hour podcast. Welcome.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
I'm the new 78 four-door Chevy Chevette, and I'm a lot of car for the money. I think we're going to like each other.
When you're on your way up, you can't always take a lot of time out for lunch. So I always keep a cup of noodles handy. All you do is add hot water and hang around for about 3 minutes. And you got it. A meal in a cup. Comes in 3 great flavors, too. Beef, shrimp, and chicken.
These are America's favorite ball games. Baseball, football, basketball. Introducing Screwball, America's newest ball game. Screwball's a puzzle that's easy to take apart, but hard to put together.
I don't think it can be done. That's a little guy in the end doodle.
He's not saying anything.
This pepper in the Super Bowl box. It's all fouled up, Chrissy.
I don't know how to work a screwball.
Hey, look at him. He's done it.
Screwball, America's newest ball game.
Can I have your autograph? Me too. Give me one for my mother.
All beef patties, pickles, sauce, lettuce, cheese, and the pickles smell.
Pickles, cheese, oh.
Lettuce and onion, sesame, all seed bun.
I think they're describing a big...
2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
Say that again.
2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, onions, pickles, onions on a...
McDonald's Big Mac, the big sandwich with the great big taste that everybody's talking about.
Sesame seed bun, and we forgot the onions.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did say onions.
Are you sure?
Then it said onions.
All right.
2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
McDonald's Big Mac, the great big sandwich with a great big taste.
Lettuce, pickles, cheese. Hey, that's a...
Big Mac.
You deserve a break today at McDonald's.
Where your dollar gets a break every day.
Far out. I'll tell him. Mr. Sestel, you may be a top producer, but your breath is a flop. You need scope in the morning.
You're a regular critic.
Mr. Sesfeld.
This scope better work.
Scope helps clean away morning mouth film, a principal cause of bad breath, because Scope has a powerful combination of ingredients.
Scope's great. My breath feels fresh. Thanks. Now try keeping in step.
Scope in the morning, every morning.
Have you seen the tub sub?
Oh, yes, sirree. It's going in the water where a tub sub should be.
Have you seen Diver Weeble?
He's wobbling inside. Inside of the tub sub, he's getting a ride.
Wally Weeble. Weeble tub sub's going in the water. Hooray!
I've seen the tub sub.
We're sure you'll agree. It looks great in the water where a tub sub should be.
Weeble tub sub comes with its own Weeble. Other Weebles sold separately in pairs from Romper Room.
Now Supergirl is on Underoos. She makes me feel special, too.
By der woman's brave and tall.
She's how I feel underneath it all. Wearing Underoos is fun. And you can choose from more than one. There's Veronica and Betty, too. There's Wonder Woman, Batgirl, and Scooby-Doo. Underwear's a fun to wear, yeah, something super new in underwear.
You can buy fashion Underoos where you buy underwear. It's underwear that's fun to wear.
I just found out about a great tampon. It's called Rely, and it's by Procter & Gamble.
Rely's a whole new kind of tampon. So it's a real improvement in feminine protection.
It's really different and better. Look for the magazine ads. They'll tell you all about Rely.
Rely's worth finding out about. After all, it's really a better tampon. Remember, they named it Rely.
Peanut butter.
Chocolate. You got peanut butter on my chocolate.
Well, you got chocolate in my peanut butter.
Bravissimo.
2 great tastes that taste great together. Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. Real milk chocolate. Good old-fashioned peanut butter.
Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Which would your child think looks more like a real ship? This one? Or a ship built with Tenti, the new kind of building bricks? Here's one of their trucks, and here's one of ours. And look at one of their space buggies, and one of ours. With Tenty, what your child builds looks just like what he wants it to be. Tenty has curved pieces and special shapes. Tenty, 21 new realistic building toys from Hasbro, each sold separately.
Well, I can tell these are what kids are going to play with 20 years from now.
I don't know who did it, and I don't want to know. But nobody's borrowing my Gillette Track 2 again. 2 blades for my beard. Understand? So I bought you each one of your own.
The Gillette Track 2. 2 blades to shave you close, recessed to make them safe. Closeness with safety.
That's really great.
All right. And don't borrow my car, because I ain't buying 3 more cars.
The Track 2 2-bladed razor. Gillette made it 1 blade better for the whole family.
Hi, friend Barney.
Hi, kids. I wish I had the fruity-licious flavor of Fruity Pebbles.
And those chocolatey goodies in Cocoa Pebbles.
What do you trade us for them?
I'll trade you Fred.
Barney!
Boy, Fruity and Cocoa Pebbles are part of a balanced breakfast.
There's an inflatable pillow inside with a bright-colored dinosaur on it. You can collect 4 different dinosaurs. You can decorate your room.
1 dinosaur inflatable pillow in each specially marked box of post Fruity
Why is,
Cocoa Pebbles.
why is there a pillow in a cereal box?
Thin, huh? Thin? Just lost 26 pounds, and that's good. When I weighed 244, I went and bought 4 new suits, and that's bad. But they were Robert Hall suits, and that's good. Because Robert Hall re-alters them free for as long as you own them. You know how much money I saved on alterations? Enough to buy myself a little reward. I love you, chicken.
Robert Hall, good clothes that don't cost the shirt off your back.
I buy a new suit after every meal.
You're taking a bath to show soap leaves a soap film and deodorant zest doesn't.
I've been using soap.
Deodorant zest here.
Both tubs are draining. Soap left this soap film ring on the tub. That's easy to see, but it's hard to see soap film on the skin. That's why I'm wearing this suit. Take a look at soap film.
But zest is different from soap. Zest makes lots of deodorant lather, but it didn't leave a soap film ring on the tub or on my suit.
That's the point. Zest doesn't leave a soap film. There was no sticky ring around the tub, and there's no ring around Rosie. Get deodorant zest. Feel cleaner than soap.
Here comes Marching Mickey, let's all shout merrily. M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E.
Who do we have here?
Marching Mickey Mouse.
He's marching Mickey Mouse, but he needs help to march. Just squeeze his hand and he steps right out.
Here comes Marching Mickey, let's all shout merrily. M-I-C-K-E-Y.
You're a good marcher, Mickey.
Marching Mickey Mouse, new from Romper Room.
About to give up, then you came along just to have your little way. Thrill me for days and days. I don't care what nobody says. I want you for always. Now that I found you, I wanna stay around. So maybe yours, maybe yours. You've already got my heart and my soul. Now I want you to take full control. I need the love that only you can give. If I can't have it, I don't want to live. I never had love so sweet. I never thought I'd be lucky enough to meet a guy with all your charms to hold me with loving arms, make me feel so good and warm.
Willpower made that old car go. A woman's mind told me that's so. Oh, how I wish we were back on the road again. Me and you and a dog named Blue, traveling and living off the land. Me and you and a dog named Blue, how I love being a free man. I can still recall the wheat fields of St. Paul, and the morning we got caught robbing from an old hen. Old MacDonald, he made us work, but then he paid us for what it was worth. Another tank of gas and back on the road again. Me and you and a dog named Blue, traveling and a living off the land. Me and you and a dog named Blue, how I love being a free man. I'll never forget the day we motored stately into Big LA. The lights of the city put settling down in my brain. Though it's only been a month or so, that old car's bugging us to go. We gotta get away and get back on the road again. Me and you and a dog named Blue, traveling and a living off the land. Me and you and a dog named Blue, how I love being a free man. Me and you and a dog named Blue, traveling and a living off the land. Me and you and a dog named Blue, how I love being a free man. Me and you and a dog named Blue.
He's living off the land with his dog. Leave him alone. He's just trying to have a good time and just be a dog having daddy. That's the kind of that song really hits home with me because I am a me in this scenario, and I have a dog, and living off the land, and nobody tells me or the dog what to do. So that's a type of American freedom right there. I think that song is really what that's all about. And the dog's named after a character from To Kill a Mockingbird, which is very literate of that dog owner to do that. It's almost like when a mom names their kid like a very ostentatious name, not because they care about the kid's well-being, but because they want to get credit every time they say that name in public. Hunter! Oh, Hunter! I saw there's a kid that had this name. I'm trying to recall what it was, but you know, it's like she was putting on a pageant with the kids in the yard and just doing whatever, and she waited for enough passers-by to say that name. It was one of those names where it was just like, that's not a name. That's a occupation. It's like a gatherer, a Bert. That's not. No, that'd be like something else. That'd be like a. There's no aesthetic to that. That doesn't match the yard when you have a name like that. Forest. Now it's something that's usually like they have like swaths of paint or wallpaper that the kid's named after. Oh, Tickle Me Elmo. That's not. That's a crayon. Partridge. That's the. I've heard that happen enough times where I'm like, we get it. You named the kid that, and it's a token appreciation that you have of that kid's name, and then that kid's gonna be. Well, the good news is you can legally have your name changed if you go to court and you disown your parents. Macaulay Culkin did it. You don't have to be 18 necessarily. I think that's probably what Elon Musk and the grimy girl I think that's what that kid's gonna do. I mean, he's probably gonna be homeschooled for one thing, but like he's gonna be going to school with kids named Apple and Blanket and Partridge and Pear and Tree, and a kid named Partridge and Pear Tree, and 2 turtle doves. There's gonna be 2 kids named Turtle Dove that he's gonna be going to school with. So he's gonna fit right in. He's actually gonna be like admired for having a normal name. Wow, you have a name that probably has like the coordinates to like a lost city underwater. But instead he has that name, which I can't even find the pronunciation online. I don't even know computer science. I mean, you need to have a degree in mathematical literacy to be able to figure out what that name pronunciation is. But luckily that kid's going to change that name to something like whatever and do like what Zoe Bowie did, which we know now is, it's David Bowie's kid, but the kid's name is Duncan Jones, which is a human name. It's like one of those things where it's like, I get it, my dad did a lot of coke in the 70s and he was a rock god, but I haven't done anything yet, so I just want to walk around with a chance to achieve something. And then he went on to be like a brilliant sci-fi director. With the exception of Looper. I don't know what was going on with that. I did like the one where they're in Moon. I think that's what it was. Which was like a straight up homage to 2001 Space Odyssey, which is a movie about the future. Well, still thinking about that dog named Boo. I have some music I could share, and I actually want to open up the dimensions of time and space and actually perform this song for an unsuspecting audience, which I think is a fun thing to do, to catch someone off guard with a good time. If you do that every now and again, you're good in my book. You're going places. You're gonna wind up making a lot of joy happen for a lot of people if you focus on it. So while I'm checking to see if my microphone does stuff, if it connects to Skype, which is also a sponsor of the show. Hey, remember when Skype didn't work? Now it works. Skype, brought to you by technology. In partner association with computers in general. Also brought to you by Wi-Fi. Alright, so the right microphone is there. So we're going to kind of just have this happen here, as I like to describe it. Might come out well, might come out interesting, might come out a little hammy, a little under energetic. That's not what I'm intending to do. But hey, you can't fake spontaneity, and you can't control how something just happens, how it turns out. I wonder if this will actually... I don't want to reach someone in corporate. I don't want to talk to someone who's like, our employees are... they're doing a great job. Well, I'm going to go sit in my office and close the door, and when someone asks for help at the register, I'm going to look at my notebook and say, these are some interesting numbers. These are some tough numbers. Got to work see how I can get these numbers in a different spot than they were yesterday. Where meanwhile it's like the people in face masks are touching stuff and going into public and risking their lives to make sure you have bread and eggs and apparently paper towels. Can't get a paper towel in this day and age. I ordered, so I had to work. You have to work around the system. Instead of getting paper towels, you get something that like does the job, like coffee filters or tampons. I tried to get some napkins, which I thought was clever. I'm like, all right, nobody's caught on to the whole napkin thing, which is basically small paper towels. isolated, so it's easier. And probably even more wasteful and destroys even more of the ozone. The guy gave me paper plates, and I ordered like 7 of them, like 7 stacks of them. And I'm like, I thought these were going to be napkins. I'm not trying to wipe my face with a paper plate. I don't know what kind of person you think I am, but, you know, I'm not that I'm not that arrogant. I'm not like, I need silverware to wipe my face. I'm wiping my face with the good china, because I'm wasteful. So that happened. All right, we figured out a one that's open, which shouldn't be. You know, there should be a robotic underground version of a grocery store where it's, hey, figure out that you can get it delivered, make it safe, keep it all contained, maybe even make a way that groceries can be done from home. Keep some of those inventories in people's closets. Do something about how people think plates are paper towels. All right. I wonder if it's working. I don't even know if it's ringing. But it also might be a thing where they're like, we ain't picking up shit. You think I'm touching a phone? You know how busy I am every day? And they're like, what, they're going to make all of a sudden be a partial call center employee in addition to carries the heavy box of watermelons down the aisle kind of person? Alright, I don't want to have to... I don't want to show any gratitude towards someone who works in the corporate side of things. Because, they're not paying their employees a livable wage. It's a bare minimum wage. Which, it is what it is. It's just what it says. Bare minimum. If you can get this and then figure out, you pipe your way through the food stamp network and also try to find some benefits because your employer somehow gets tax cuts, but you don't, and they get paycheck protections, but you don't. That is, that's one of those things where it's like it's bare minimum if you know how to navigate the government's protections. That, hey, I'm for small government, but I'm helping the big boys. I want the government nice and small so it fits in my pocket, and then I can pull it out and steal some tax money whenever I want. Whenever I need to, like, hey, can I borrow some tax money because I really want to gamble, which is that's what stock trading is. It's gambling. It's just another word for a thing that's a vice. And that's the thing that the backbone of the economy is. That's the thing Trump needs to open up the economy for, so everybody can gamble and risk their lives. And he's walking into mask factories without a mask, and he's getting those masks contaminated. And he's been near people with coronavirus. I'm just trying to say, can somebody with coronavirus shake that man's hand and do the thing that he does where he squeezes it and shakes your whole arm like he's a Donkey Kong? President Donkey Kong shaking hands like that? Not wearing masks, stealing princesses, offending plumbers with the stereotypes. All right. That's a statement about how Trump is like the game Donkey Kong. Not the one with the big boob alligator ladies, but the one where it's like you have to climb up these series of staircases and avoid oil. What's that a lesson for? Hey, use green energy, use windmills. There'd be less donkeys, Kong, stealing ladies if you used solar and wind energy. Because then they'd be like, well, I have nothing to throw except this panel. And they don't roll. Ever try to roll a solar panel down the 45-degree angle? They just stay there. That's what they do. That's why they're panels. They're not spherical. They're not called solar balls. It's a different thing. All right. So 4 minutes later, no one's picked up the phone. I get the sense that that's probably what the story is. It's like, my shift closes in 2 hours. I'm not picking up a goddamn phone. All right. We'll find something here. I don't want to reveal too much, but it's going to be something. I hope it's the right something. There's something in the air, the wind moves me like no other lover. Something in the way she moves me. Do you like that? Here's a new song I wrote. It's called... I copyrighted all those notes, and if you try to use them, I'll sue you. Just like Warner Brothers does. We possess the order of melodic notes. Hey, this C came before this G. That's ours! That's my impression of lawyers from music labels who sue people when they use a thing that kind of closely sounds like a thing, but it's like, man, you just had 3 of a thing that only has 8 of them and put those together, and then you're suing me because I did it. That's, there's many people who could relate to that. I think Sam Smith can relate to that, for what Tom Petty did to him, or what the guy from, what's that band? They sing, Bittersweet, Bittersweet Symphony, was it like The Verve or something like that? Rolling Stones owns that song because they used a sample of just like a boom, 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 just like a percussive, just a rhythm thing, not even a melody thing, a rhythm thing. And it's like, now they get money from his creative brainchild, from his getting money from his level of genius. You know, the Rolling Stones are just... They're alive is what they're doing. That's what their job is, to be alive still. But there's also a thing where it's like, hey, the Rolling Stones were cool, and then Brian Jones left, and then they turned into a blues band with occasional disco habits, which I support any habit relating to disco. All set with the blues. Mix up some folk music. That's why it's like, when that was like the British invasion, these bands were kind of like, they're all playing Baroque music, and it's kind of got the same sensibility. It's got, you know, those really classical influenced melodies. But then, you know, Brian Jones is providing all that. He was like the guy who made their band competing with like the Beach Boys and having great levels of production and different instrumentation. And then they're like, all right, he's out. Let's just have guitar solos and 3-bar blues and a lot of swagger. Just really all they are. All they are is what the album cover of Mick Jagger's Dick in His Jeans is. That's kind of what that band is. That's how you sum them up post Brian Jones. We're a tight pair of jeans squeezing the life out of a dick, is what the Rolling Stones turn into, as opposed to something beautiful, orchestral, informed, you know, something sweet and more fulfilling in some way, as opposed to just like... That's like better. You know, I'm not gonna... The Rolling Stones did what they did. They know what they did. They're fine. But it's just that, come on, you gotta... Blues is filler music. If I'm being controversial, I'm sorry. But, you know, it's that thing where it's like, hey, we need 2 more songs. Do some jams, some noodling, some blues stuff. Put a harmonica in there. Do that. George Harrison did it on All Things Must Pass. He has like 2 songs that are like just blues jams. We need 2 more songs. Just put them in there. We need to fill the rest of this vinyl with scratchies. But instead of the Rolling Stones, like, let's have all of our songs be like that. And then occasionally it's like, oh, that's a song. That's a memorable thing. when you sit down and put some effort into it. Jesus. All right. Did I get to the phone number that has people in it still? Do people talk anymore? It's like you try to, if you're a single person and you're not quarantining with any type of person, try to go on those dating apps. And this is an original topic. This has never been touched before. But if you go on a dating app, and it's like people are just leveling up. Nobody's sitting around trying to actually make a connection happen. But it's like, it's just a lot of leapfrogging. And it's just like, hey, if I wanted to do some leapfrogging, I'd download Frogger. Might even have better chance of getting laid on a lily pad. That's the end phase of that's how you know you've reached completion in Frogger. Is you're on a lily pad, you jumped over all the logs, you didn't get squished by a car, although they're driving at a very suspicious pace. And why is a frog? I don't know why is a frog of equal status on a highway as these vehicles? That I don't get. But hey, there's more important things. Did you know there's a pandemic? Hey, let's... Alright, I'm wasting people's time here, and that's not the goal here. We're trying to create memories that you can tell your grandchildren one day that you got to be part of a recorded thing. You listen to it. Someone's gonna pick up. Just like that. No. That's a preview of what was going to happen here. I'm not reaching who I'm trying to reach. So here's an inside tip or a secret. I ate a piece of an edible somewhat before recording this. So like I might get real chill in the next few minutes throughout the hour. If that happens, go with it. Maybe it's easier to listen to. Maybe it's less aggressive and less aware of the news cycle. Maybe it's more breezy. You like a breeze? I got a breeze for you. His name is Squeezy. Squeezy. Squeezy, breezy, jeezy, beautiful cover girl. You like your smoothie boobie? Well, I might switch to a different segment here if I can't find a grocery store employee who is available to take my call. I thought that's what they do. Alright, this is like in the heart of the city. They have to pick up the phone. call Stop and Shop. But I imagine because they're the ones that have like the most affordable groceries. And maybe that's why they're so busy, because everyone wants those groceries. Hey, if I can get this alternate form of flour at a slightly discount compared to what Shaw's charges, and even more so than what Whole Foods charges, I'm gonna go there first. Meanwhile, they're like, we ain't got no time for picking up a phone. We are selling out of rutabaga. People buy rutabaga? What is a rutabaga? Have you ever eaten a rutabaga? Maybe try one. Rutabaga. You probably make a pie with it. I feel like it's a pie-related type of... Is it a legume? Is it a stone fruit? Is it a kumquat of some type of rutabaga? Or is it a type of car? Maybe it's like a type of 70s car. A rutabaga. I drive a rutabaga. The new Acura... No, it's not. Acura is not from the 70s. They're like more recent than that. It's the new Ford rutabaga. No, Ford's shitty, but they wouldn't make a thing called a rutabaga. It's like a... the new rutabaga from Oldsmobile. The new squeaky clean. We have a radio in it. We have a car that has a radio in it. Meanwhile, you're like, but what? Radio is supposed to be like only something you gather around your living room and listen to, and you can barely fit it inside of a house, let alone in a compact car. I don't buy that. I'll buy it, but I don't buy it. Maybe this one. I used to shop at this one. I used to stop and shop at this Stop and Shop. I think they'd take kindly to a joke like that. If I got a hold of them and they'd probably ban me from the store if I made a joke like that. Probably don't allow people to make jokes anymore. Let's see. Hopefully it works. I'll go on the record and say there's like the 4th time I've tried to reach these people. 4th different store. Maybe I will call customer service or corporate and say, bring some people down in the phone section. Pay them well, but bring some of those people down there. I don't know what Johnny Stop and his brother shop, his partner Earl Shop, Johnny Stop and his partner Earl Shop founded this store 20 years ago, and they've been collecting most of the capital ever since. They do not share it equitably with their employees, which is a problem. We got to stop that. Stop that shopping. So the call is ending, so something's happening, but I'm not hearing the reason why. Isn't life kind of like that? You always hear something, but you don't know why. Here's something that happens. I always find whenever I say something to my dog, kind of keep her, if we're walking somewhere or like she's not listening and being stubborn, I always say something that I feel like it's kind of true for myself. Like I always listen back to me saying that to a dog because they're pretending they don't speak English, and then the thing I say comes out of my mouth. I'm like, that's kind of like me. So I guess maybe I have more to say to myself. There's more things I could correct about myself than trying to teach you a certain way. What was the thing I was saying the other day where I was like, being difficult is not how life works. Actually, that is how life works. But no, it's not something. I wasn't trying to teach her a lesson. Like I was trying to just trying to communicate in a certain way. Where I was like, do you want to? or she's like chasing a stick or something, or I'm like, hey, there's more things if you keep moving. Like, there's more good things to come. And I'm like, that's something we could all live by, not just a dog chasing a stick or like trying to, catch every bird that comes by. It's like, there'll be all the time in the world for a bird when you're at home. But you don't have to catch every single bird, because then you're going to have a bad reputation amongst birds. And, at the end of the day, it's all about what you put out there, not what you take in. What you put out there is equal to... The love you take is equal to the love you make. And I think the Byrds wrote that about a dog who was acting up. The Beatles wrote that. All together now. They did the thing like they do on Whose Line Is It Anywhere way, where, when they have John and Paul, they share a song credit. Basically, the way they write those songs is like how Wayne Brady and Colin Mockery do it, where they're like, the man brought his basket to the hill, and my friend had a big pickle to have on the lawn. That's basically how the Beatles wrote most of their lyrics. If you think I'm fooling about that, go listen to Obla Di Obla Da. It's about like going to the grocery store and wearing makeup and shit. Doesn't say anything. Although the backstory is really cool. It's basically about how Paul McCartney was in like Jamaica or something like that, and he was just like hanging out with this cool dude, and he's just like, "Obla di, obla da, man, life goes on." He's like, "I like that, man. That's a cool thing to say to me right now." And then he put that in a song as like the chorus of that song. And but then the rest of it, he's like, "Well, I gotta figure out what to say for the rest of this song." Well, the words don't mean anything unless you hear about that cool story, and nowhere is that buried in this song, because this is just a reggae song with that saying. And then the rest of it is about a 30-something couple going to the grocery store with their kid named Partridge, or Hunter, or hey, now there was this name. I'm like, I can't believe that's what you named your kid. A fielder. Or was like it was like the object of an action. Like, it wasn't even like the subject of the action, like a name would be, but it was like the receiver. It was like striker. I think that's what it was. It was like striker. Like, lady, that's more of a character from Mortal Kombat than it is a child who's a child. And you're doing that? I don't know. Maybe social services should get involved with your naming abuse. That's what it is. It's abuse when you name a kid a terrible thing that they're going to have to grow up through and transpire and be braver than. That's what it is. It's like your name could build a character. That's what that Johnny Cash song is all about. A boy named Sue. He learned to be a badass, but like a kind of a bitter, chip on his shoulder kind of guy, because he was named Sue. And then he met his dad, and he's like, "I'm going to beat your ass up for naming me Sue. You know how horrible you made my life just to complete a birth certificate task?" That's what he did to him. How dare you, man who named that boy Sue? Do not appreciate that on behalf of Sue, Mr. whatever Sue's last name is. And then his wife was named Bob, and that's why they met. It's a non-binary couple, and they're very happy together. Okay, what's going on here? All right. Well, Stop and Shop has failed to be the phone service situation here. One of those... There's a grocery store in Alston I used to go to all the time, and there's people that are like working there like 24 hours a day. Like, every time you go there, they're there. And it's like, part of me's thinking, like, are those the ghosts of people who used to live here? But it's just people that just, like, hey, they're lifers. There's grocery store lifers. And I don't know what it is, whether it's they get just good benefits, or you don't really know what their salaries are or something. Or, like, there is something beneath the surface of, like, oh, they get something great. Maybe they get free groceries. They figure something out where they're like, well, I'll keep these people here. But those are the people where they're always there. They don't, if they burn out, it's like in a very this job, it's like a very shucks kind of way of burning out, as opposed to like seriously melting down, which I saw that once in a dispensary. And I'm like, those people are supposed to be chill. This guy's freaking out because they didn't have the coronavirus precautions set up in the first week of it, and they stayed open. He's like, I'm just quitting, man. And I'm like, man, your energy, and I'm trying to just get some of this anxiety relief, and you're not helping it too much. Meanwhile, I go to the grocery store that's open 24 hours a day, and these people with like the darkest rings under their eyes because they work like a night shift and a morning shift, and they're just like, man, I'm so done with this people, man, it's just too much of them. But like, he doesn't complain. He's just scanning 500 people in a row of people, and that's just, they have them like that functionality like that. But these are the people where I'm like, I bet you, the listening audience, $10. And if there's too many of you, I didn't bet you anything. But if there's some of you and it's a reasonable amount, I bet you $10 to pick up the phone, just because it seems like they would. Where's the one that I really want to get, that one store? I think this is it. Where is it? There's just so many Star Markets around. It's like they're all, it's like if you look at a pedophile map, it's like that many Star Markets around. That can't be it. Well, we're going to call somebody, so I'm not just going to be a knucklehead over here and just constantly do this. All right, so Star Market. I'm Googling in real time. You can Google along if you're listening live, typing in Star Market Alston. And this has to be that number. They're closing in 45 minutes. You know somebody's just running a mop somewhere, and they're just like, I'm the manager, and I'm just... Oh, they're closed? Oh, they're closed soon. Oh, for seniors. They, I guess they have different times for seniors. Like, they're like, get in here early. We're saving your lives by shortening your grocery store hours. $10. I wonder if I just wasn't hearing him. That would be horrible. I think that's what it was. Wow. Okay. So I think these people have been picking up the phone, and due to a technical glitch, I've been rude. They've been hearing me talk shit about various versions of a grocery store. Alright, let's try this again. Hopefully I didn't be rude too much. Yeah. Hey, Star Market, you guys are doing a great job out there working in these times. And I wonder if you're a fan of reggae music.
Personally, no, but why not?
I asked for this specific reason here, and hopefully it's not too offensive, but I wanted to thank you somehow. Is high, but I'm rolling on. I'm gonna be your number one. I'm not the kind of man who gives up just like that. No, not the things you do that really hurts me bad. Things you do to me. But I'm not the kind of man who gives up just like that. No, the tide is high, but I'm holding if you hated that or whatever, but it's just like hey, keep up the good work, giving food, keeping people fed, and you're out there in the world where even President Trump wouldn't do that. So your guys are. He would not. He'd be playing golf with his mask off, or he'd be making out with somebody who has coronavirus. Yeah. But I just wanted to spread a message to whoever picked up the phone where it's like, you guys are you're feeding people and people are starving and you're just doing it and you're killing it. And I hope you have a great evening and have a great 3-day weekend. All right. Have a great night. All right. He didn't like reggae, so I cut it short for his benefit. I wanted to thank him, not hurt his patience. So that was that. Again, sloppy performance, but I think it's the intention that counts. You may disagree because you're listening and you're like, I want music. I don't want garbage. I didn't tune in to hear positivity in general. All right, let me check to see if our guest is hanging in there. I wonder if he's holding on like that song that I was holding on with and was really sloppy about it, which, hey, you start sloppy, you get better. That's something I told my dog, and it was true for me. So I live by everything I say to my dog, where I'm like, hey, I can't be a hypocrite, and I'm not someone who does as I don't do as I say. I'm doing a Bush thing right now. Say as you don't do as I say, just do it. That's what he's like. Don't say what I do. Just leave me alone. You get out of me. Get out of here. That's an impression of George W. Bush at a press conference. One time, if you wish upon a star, well, Star Search was a show, and I want to be a star, and everybody's a star, and I forgot what I was talking about because I'm stoned, is what the president said back then. And you can look that up. But that's the thing that they call fake news, because it's like, I don't need to show you facts. I just call it fake news. Or I just say a thing and I feel it, so it's true. And then and then you try to report on something, and you have like 5 people on salary reporting on something, and they show you the evidence. They report on something for 7 months, and then someone just comes along as a president and calls it fake news, and then nobody has a comeback, where I'm like, prove it's fake news. Or what do you mean it's fake? How do you know it's fake? How is it fake? That's the question reporters or people should respond with. How do you know it's fake? I didn't think of a second thing. I just thought of the thing. That is like totalitarian and like catchphrasey. He speaks in catchphrases. He doesn't speak in human stuff. All right. I'm stalling because I'm trying to see. It's like I'm using 3 different forms of communication here. One form of that communication is a podcast, and then another form is he communicated through Instagram, and then his Skype is somewhere. Okay, he's Instagramming in here now. So before I get him on here, I'm going to figure that all out, but I'm going to not chew up your time. I'm not going to be, somebody who calls a grocery store and doesn't figure out that his audio is not working. It's not the kind of person I am. At least it's not the person I aim to be. I aim to be true. All right. All that banter is just to try to find my shit. I'm trying to find my shit, man. Can't help me find my shit. We'll be right back after a what, George Harrison? Say it again, George Harrison.
We have to take a station break.
And what? And what else?
And sell some more oranges.
Are we almost there? I'm starving.
Only 5 miles to the Hardee's Big Roast Beef.
5 miles?
What a sandwich. Tender, juicy roast beef, sliced in, piled high on a toasted bun.
Stop.
You've never tasted a roast beef sandwich like
Finally. May I take your order?
I wonder what we ought to have.
What? 2 big roast beef sandwiches. That's what we ought to have. Thank you, ma'am.
Hardee's, best eating in town, up and down and all around.
Come to the Honeycomb Hideout.
I'm Big Boulder Jones, and I want a big cereal.
Honeycomb's big, and it's got a big bite.
Right. Post honeycomb cereal is part of a balanced breakfast, and it gives you a big bite.
A door sign inside. Peel them and stick them up. Garbage stuff. Closes at 6 p.m. This place off limits to grown-ups. Do not disturb. Genius of the book. 6 door signs. One needs specially marked box of post honeycomb cereal.
Ate the Sara Lee. Who ate the piece that I saved for me? Who just couldn't resist? Who ate the Sara Lee?
Sara Lee all butter pound cake. Nobody can resist that special flavor because we use fresh country eggs and fresh whole milk and butter and butter and butter and butter.
Nobody can resist Sara Lee.
Welcome to my coffee plantation. I'm Simon Stone. Come on, I'll show you the secret to one of the world's richest coffees. Horizon with hand-picked flavor. We hand-pick lots of Horizon's beans. We say Horizon C to beans at peak flavor, Horizon No to the rest.
Simon, it's great coffee.
That's hand-picked flavor.
Horizon C?
Horizon C.
Horizon, rich in hand-picked beans, rich in hand-picked flavor.
Lemon pledge, very pretty, puts a shine down lemon good. Lemon pledge as you're dusting, brings new luster to the wood. Lemon pledge, clean so easy, lemon way to make wood.
Lemon Pledge from Johnson Wax.
This is George. This is Harold. George always loved completely nutritious gravy train. Not Harold. Harold had to have something else. It was a bother that now that Gravy Train made the gravy better tasting, beefy tasting. Rich, thick, and so much darker than before. They both love it. Thank you, new Gravy Train, for making better tasting gravy for Harold.
Mike, you'd be the greatest lifeguard, but when you come on duty in the morning, you have bad breath. What you need is scope first thing in the morning, and your breath will really be fresh. That's it. I'll tell him about scope. I'll say, Mike, you have... Mike!
Morning. Oh, I see you use scope, too. I just tried scope. My breath really feels fresh. From now on, it's scope in the morning. Every morning.
Some people think their golf balls are the best, but this is where talk stops and performance begins. When Ben Hogan tests an Apex ball, he expects performance. There must be the unmistakable click of a ball well hit, as well as the distance he demands. Hogan also builds performance into his durable cover leader ball. The Ben Hogan line of golf balls gets you there. The Hogan line. Performance golf balls from the company synonymous with perfection. The Ben Hogan Company.
Your new Fiat Brava is a masterpiece of European craftsmanship. That craftsmanship keeps showing up in one pleasant surprise after another.
Are we picking up Aunt Mary? Uh-huh. Here I am!
Like more headroom than a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow.
Oh.
Reclining easy chair seats.
Wake me when we get there.
And a masterfully crafted suspension system.
Did we just go over the tracks?
Fiat. Seems the more you drive it, the better it gets.
Barry, that was the nicest ride.
Once there were two spelling bees.
Hello, H-E-L-L-O, hello, go, G-O, go.
Who loved to spell so much.
F-L-O-W-E-R.
They never had time to eat breakfast. One day, their mother got them a box of Post Alphabets, the cereal that's letter-shaped from A to Z.
Yummy, Y-U-M-M-Y, yummy.
Now that Alphabets is part of their good breakfast, the spelling bees can spell while they eat because every letter is fun to eat.
Hey, Mom! Look what General Electric packed inside our new dryer.
That's how I discovered Bounce, the fabric softener that helps me appreciate my new dryer even more. The heat of the dryer releases Bounce's unique softeners to all our clothes.
My jeans are soft.
My dress is soft.
My towel feels soft.
Bounce controls static better than any rinse-added liquid because it works in the dryer where static builds up.
My blouses don't cling.
Our socks don't cling.
My shirts don't cling.
The fresh smell of Bounce stays on our clothes long after they're out of the dryer.
My jacket smells fresh.
My blankets smell fresh.
My robe smells fresh.
My ass smells fresh. That's what they're getting to. I think that's what they're trying to sell is ass guard. Ass wipe, ass stuff. Coming up now, we have Blake Wexler. He's a comedian. I know him from listening as a fanatic to the Todd Glass podcast, also known as the Todd Glass Show, if you want to call it by its name, which is a movie. This gentleman, his story is, he grew up with, he didn't grow up with Todd. I mean, as far as I know, I think they are the same age. But he grew up with Todd as far as comedy goes in Philly, and kind of think that's the start of a good friendship. So the story is Blake Wexler was collecting all these voicemails from Todd because Todd's as funny in real life as he seems to be in real life as he is on the show. So he just collected these messages, and they're just great content. And there was one in particular that had me going. It's pretty short, but I want to play that here and then bring Blake to the stage where he's going to perform some stand-up. But here's a voicemail from the album 12 Years of Voicemails from Todd Glass to Blake Wexler, which is available clearly on Spotify because I'm there. But let's play this thing from there and hear what you think.
Blake, hold on, let me say goodbye to my wife. Good night, Sharon. All right, I'm calling my friend Blake. Now's not the time. She's beautiful. She is. The more I look at her face, the more I want to talk about how beautiful it is. Wow. Blake. Okay, this is a first. This is a first. I forgot why I'm calling. I'll call you back. I don't want to, just leave a stupid long message. Blake Wexler. Right? Happy. Well, it's not going to be so happy. Something happened. I got a little shaken up. So, I guess you heard about Oprah Winfrey coming backstage at Largo. That was crazy. You know what I mean? You think you're used to seeing people, but you turn your head and there's Oprah. So she, out of nowhere, she takes my hand and pulls me. There's like a little curtained off area. Not pulls me meanly, but like you're pulling a friend in. Come on in here. Next thing I know, her leg is pinned up against my dick, and she goes, "Give it up, or your secret's through." Wow. I got to admit, I was honored. So, one thing led to another. Well, I don't know what to say. Except April Fools, you dumb fuck. I got you good, you pile of shit. You're on my new prank voicemail message show. You fucking loser. Do you like being gotten? I hope you do. Take it and mush it up in shit and shove it in your face.
Oh, that was Todd Glass to Blake Wexler, and here's Blake Wexler to you.
I swear to God, I took 2 Midols, and I had never, ever felt so good in my entire life. So now I just take Midol. I take it all the time. I'm on 4 right now, and I'm glowing, Daddy. I am glowing. Yes, thank you. I'm very brave.
a big fan of My Idol. Let's see if we can reach Senor Wexler by the telephone. Why am I speaking Spanish? Well, I'm trying to be inclusive of all languages, even the ones I don't speak. So he is standing by, and we're going to reach him quite right now.
Hello.
Hey.
What's going on?
How you doing? You are like a god in my ears right now, and I think it's due to the volume level.
Oh, I also am using a professional microphone. That's the kind of person I am. That's how I do it.
I can tell that's like a Steve Harvey type of microphone. That's like a shiny afro type of a microphone.
This is actually a Steve Harvey Oswald microphone. It was recovered from the scene of a very infamous assassination. I got it. It was not inexpensive. It was very expensive.
It was by the way, I'm wondering if this call is not going onto the podcast, which would be bad news. I'm going to repeat your joke. I want to hear it all from scratch, and the audience might just be hearing me right now. But it might not even be happening. I'm just paranoid because I'm not seeing the level here. All right, so the audio, I'm also being transparent. I ate a piece of an edible. It does happen every now and again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Okay, wow. So the audience didn't hear any of what you had to say. So let's start as if I was talking to myself, and then he picked up the phone. I'm like, good, I practiced how to talk to him, and now we're going to talk to him. Hey, that mic, so you got your mic, well, it doesn't sound as loud in my ears right now, but yeah, you got like a professional-looking mic.
Right. Who would you say, of a famous person, if you were to compare this mic to something they might have?
Definitely Steve Harvey.
Oh, that's funny. This is actually a Steve Harvey Oswald microphone, the least famous assassin, but he was funny. He killed people in a very affable and charismatic way.
And he also had
the joke a little bit.
And he also had some tough things to say about Asian men. Did you catch that news story where he got canceled, but his cancellation was only he was revoked more than he was canceled.
Could I tell you, it's so funny. I thought you were talking about Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassin, and I was like, I don't know if I just assumed he was racist.
Like, that's the grudge. By the way, I know he shot a man's head and his brains exploded. Also a bit of a racist. Also a little bit Asiaphobic. And that's specifically Asiaphobic. He had nice things to say about the other communities.
Yeah, not the Irish, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was not a fan. Here's a thought that it borders on sedition. Does this seem true that only Democratic presidents have been assassinated? If you look back in time.
Actually, I have. And someone's telling me that my volume is a little low. One of my many fans, it's low on the show for some reason. And by the way, and I am trying to get a producer credit out of this.
So you have I was trying to hire somebody to listen in to actually give me real time. Because I had some technical glitches. This is like episode 10.
Cool.
Jumping off from a live show, and this is like I'm going to learn how podcasting works.
Love it.
And then, so the first couple shows, I'm like, I just had a whole conversation with this guy, and all my microphone was off the whole time. And I'm like, hey, so that audience is not going to like that thing. But that being the case, I try to get someone to fix that so I can make sure that never happens again. And if you have someone listening in real time.
Yes, or at least they were. They said my volume was low at one point.
Maybe it was back when it wasn't working well. Like, it was the thing, and then because I could switch it back, but I think this is the level where it's actually input. If you text them real quick and say, "Is it good now?"
Done. I wrote any better. Is that okay, or do I have to say, "Is it good now"?
Can you spell out full grammar? Can you use capitalize your sentence and make sure you use punctuation at the end of that text?
So is it capital A, lowercase b for better, and they say it's actually still pretty low.
Okay. Let me see what I can adjust, and it'd be so cool if they give some real stuff, because the whole audience can benefit from that. Okay, ready? Here's something. Is it better?
Is the host's voice better? I'm asking, or is it good? Is this any better? And I'll call her Clarence.
Clarence.
Okay, yours is okay, but Clarence, is mine still low?
Wait a minute. Okay, wait.
It is still low. Oh, no, I'm back. I'm good.
Okay, I think I figured out what the dial was. Okay.
Thank you, Clarence.
Thank you, Clarence. Everyone go follow Clarence on wherever he's comfortable sharing anything that he does.
At Clarence. So, to your point, it's interesting. In our minds now, we would think that, to your point of every president that's been assassinated is Democratic. Lincoln was a Republican.
But like,
odd to think about.
But like fake Republican. That was back when they switched basically.
Right.
Remember that? Like, whereas like,
Right.
Because that was like apparently like FDR was the breaking point where it's like he was a rich guy who went to a poor neighborhood and they're like, maybe we could help these people out. His wife said, and then he's like, from now on, every Democrat will be a good thing.
That was the Democratic Proclamation, which he does not get credit for.
Does not get it. He said that.
Didn't someone shoot Reagan?
But he didn't die, so I don't think it counts.
Oh, you're right.
So technically, I mean, he had. Is that why he had brain damage?
That actually happened before he was shot.
The brain damage.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm like, maybe
his policies he had it the whole time.
I'm like, well, you can't blame the guy for ignoring the AIDS epidemic. He got shot in the brain.
Yeah,
like
other things to worry about.
Yeah, like, is this bullet gonna end my soul? Like,
or even worse, my presidency.
Yeah, God knows that's way worse to not have the legacy of having been a president. Well, I think that's really all people want to be presidents for. It's like people who feel like they're entitled to being a president. Mm-hmm. It's like you just want to have the book you want to write the book afterwards and say, "Yep," and also I was a president at the end of my life, or towards as I was going from being a lawyer to being a Senate to making some shady deals here and there to then being a president. And what's better than a president other than like a demigod or a pope?
Yeah, and you want that book to be in your library, and I think that's also part of it too. Is that everyone wants a presidential library. I know I was president of my high school for student council, and I got my own library there. And now I believe they've turned it into a Blockbuster, which has since closed.
Wait, so you got a presidential library in high school?
No. I wish I did.
Has anybody
named it after me? I feel like I could have pressed for that and actually had that happen.
Do you think any student council presidents been assassinated?
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. What would there even be there? If they took a grilled cheese off the lunch menu, and after that, there was a line. They're
giving all these handouts with all these sodas. Like they're giving all these free sodas and lollipops. Hey, how about the government don't bail out? I don't know. There's something racist in there. Something to do with how soda is like welfare and you shouldn't help people who are in need even though your government's bailing you out. Which is just this whole... I can't even take that anymore. It's just like... So we were talking about assassinations, and I was just like, has nobody even thought about like maybe a Republican? About time a Republican is added to a list of some kind.
Hey I am as liberal as they get. I am not going.
Do you want to go on the record? You're not the first person I've tried to like bring into this area of like, off of a recorded thing. I know no one in the FBI. I mean, I've had a guest say to the FBI agent listening right now, this is my official statement, which that's the level. It's like, yeah, they're combing through all the podcasts that have like 2 or less listeners and that are like the ones that are so DIY where they're like, well, you gotta sing a hard song to get that thing noticed somewhere and someday. But it's like, but the FBI, those are the seditious, but that's not, nobody should harm anybody, but it's just a question I had where it's like, is it that all Democrats are so anti-gun, but then they're like, how do we stop this guy? We can't even impeach the guy. It's like, has anybody thought about like throwing an egg at him or like tar and feather? Like some of those things where it's like...
Bush got a shoe. Someone threw a shoe at Bush.
Shoe's a good one. He didn't... Did the shoe guy go to jail for life for throwing a shoe?
That is interesting. I don't believe that happened in the United States, so I believe that would have to be another... I don't know globally what their stances are on shoe throwing, whether or not like how far it is as a punishable offense. But I would imagine it's equivalent to manslaughter, at least.
It's attempted. Maybe they think it's attempted murder.
Right, in the third degree.
In the third degree. What if that was a cleat?
Yeah, a cleat is something completely different. You're right.
Yeah, those things have metal soles on the bottom of those things. So I was playing, before you came on here, I played two things. I played from your album 12 Years of Voicemails from Todd Glass to Blake Wexler, which is me saying the whole name, not just me referring to you in the third person as well as Todd.
Right.
But the one where I feel like a while ago when this first came out, because I'm like a Todd ahead, as they call him.
Yeah,
but like
the best.
I just I had to listen to all this thing, and then the funniest thing is when it's like the one where he's talking to his wife.
I heard you play. I was listening to the stream when you played that. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones too. He behind the curtain, he does this bit or he would do it on his podcast where he before anyone was around him, he'd record the sound of
it's like a beaker sound.
It would sound like someone was on the other it was supposed to give off the geese that someone was on the phone and you could barely hear them through the the ear thing, and then he would say something and then you'd hear in the background, and it's one of my favorite things, just the idea of someone preparing a bit just for social interaction, not for a crowd or an audience at all, just for one person, which I think is kind of why I like that album so much, is that it's just so funny to me. It's almost like a mental illness where this person just literally is prepping for an audience of one.
It's a tried and true showman. It's like the world is a stage. But it made me think of I'm trying not to I'm trying to be tiptoeing and not get into something I don't mean to say, but I know Todd, he grew up with comedy and that became his thing, and whenever he tries to do an improv bit, his knowledge base is just strictly the archives of comedy history. It's always back in the day, Don Rickles, he doesn't have any presidents to pull up, but it's all a comedian type of thing, where it's he can so fast on the knowledge base when it's comedy, which shows that he speaks, or it's his forte is literally just operating through comedy as a mechanism.
The guy's an encyclopedia. It's and it's not just famous people either, where he could, and all stand-ups can really do this, the people that all my friends and I, 10, 15 years ago when I started, will mention someone who maybe did comedy once, and pull up their name so easily and remember a bit of theirs, and we'll laugh about it. And then Todd, someone who's obviously gotten to such a cool point in the career, that Todd has, can do the same thing where he remembers the names of someone from Bristol, Pennsylvania, however many years, in the 80s or whatever, and he could just pull up their names so easily. And I'm sure this person, if they just heard Todd Glass, they'd be like, how the hell does Todd know my name? And it's Todd was at the open mic or whatever. And his mind is incredible.
Well, I love how he's quoted Paul Reiser twice. Which is such a specific period of comedy, of observation, but he's talking the meat, don't mix the meat with the potatoes. And he seems to love mashed potatoes. Is that a fair observation? That
it is. It's more than fair. It's a just observation, and he pronounces them potatoes as well. So I don't know if that's it might be a Philly thing, because he says tomatoes, potatoes. So that might be a Philly thing.
Also a little bit of an Irish thing.
Right.
Potatoes. At least my grandma. I think we used to think that our grandma's pretending to be more Irish than she actually was, just to have some street cred.
Oh, funny. Everyone needs an identity. It's true. It's are you? Look at someone's Twitter bio, and if they're not doing entertainment related shit, it's all right. So is it? I feel like it's either you mentioned your favorite sports team, you're a Christ follower, you're Irish, you know, like it's always some sort of, it is interesting to see what people try to like make their identity, you know. I guess it's the same with comedy, you know. I put comedian, it's not just because it's my job, it's, you know, who I am, I guess.
It's the thing you take pride in. Like, if you're going to have any label assigned to you where it's like, well, it's not the job that I don't care about that just pays my bills. It's not the fact that I have, like, a medical condition. It's the fact that I choose to be a comedian.
Mm-hmm. And a libertarian. No, I'm kidding.
You know, libertarians, hey, that's a slippery slope between Joe Rogan and having a stockpile of guns on a farm somewhere in the Midwest.
Right.
Where it's like he's somewhat like he's liberal, but he's also like wants to beat up people really bad.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like, you know, like not to go too far into this, but
we don't have to talk about Joe Rogan that long.
Like seeing comedians' fans or the fans of anything where sometimes I'm actually shifting it away from Joe Rogan because I'm not sure if this.
We don't have to talk about him at all.
But I think just for this theory that I'm about to say, that like I think sometimes the fans of things can ruin the thing, you know, where it's like, oh, is it that bad? I'm not to answer the thing about Joe Rogan, I don't know, but like I don't listen to him that much. But you know, like for instance with pot, like before, you know, I met like a lot of people who smoke and stuff, like I would see the parody of like, you know, like a pot smoker and stuff. Yeah. And I would be like, oh, is that what it is? And then it's like, no, that's just the worst version of people who like this great thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it is interesting where, I mean, obviously I mean, Joe Rogan smokes a lot of pot, but I'm not comparing the two, but it is interesting sometimes to see like, oh, how much do someone's fans reflect who they are as a comic, as a musician, blah, blah, blah. But then it almost always circles back to the point that, oh, this artist did something to get these awful fans in some way. You know what I mean? So it does. Anyway, that's my theory.
Something they're not proud of.
Or maybe they are. Like, maybe it is a part of them. You know, like, I'm trying to think of, like, an example.
Well, the thing you were saying about, like, how, like, there's these stoners or types, and it's like, you know, you don't want to be associated with, like, you know, the people who listen to like 311 or like listen to those kind of bands, or that are like, that's like lesser rock music, but like there's good reggae music. It doesn't all have to be Sublime or.
Oh yeah.
But no, but the thing is, like, I feel like there's more interesting stoners. Like I'm kind of, you know, I know this is like crossing circles of stuff, but it's like I'm kind of tired of Doug Benson a little bit. Like, and again, don't comment if you don't want to like say something. It's more of like the thing where it's like whenever Todd Glass is on, like Getting Doug with High or one of those things where it's like Todd's the one doing all the work, and then Doug's always giving him shit, and I'm like, he's kind of a crabby stoner.
Yeah, I don't know Doug, and by the way, I'm not like not weighing in, you know, for political reasons, but like it's interesting. I've never. I know tons of people who do Doug's show. I don't think I've ever seen Doug do like stand up, and I think the only like Doug Loves Movies I've ever seen are ones that, like, you know, I was opening for Todd and like Doug was there that weekend as well. You know what I mean? So I'm just not educated enough on it. But
well, I used to watch. He had really great Comedy Central Presents specials, great jokes. Like, he's just a great joke writer. And then the podcast where I was digging Getting Doug with High. And I know it's like things are weird and shit now, but it's like there is this kind of obvious. He's like catering to an audience that basically generates income. If you have that hook, like if you're Chris Hardwick and you play up the nerd stuff, you have a racket. It's but then
I think I just took a screenshot.
I'm like, is that like your headshot? You just sent me a headshot. You're like, make sure you pass this along if you're gonna have
real quick, if you could describe my headshot for me, and I wish you had done it before we started in audio format.
Very handsome, good head of hair, good tan. Could pass as a model, and if you didn't know he did comedy, but if you didn't know he did comedy, you could say, I could tell this guy has a sense of humor for how good he looks. So it goes both ways in that.
Sorry, dude. I like never use Skype. I thought I was like making the screen big, and it was a screenshot. It's unbelievable. I've never felt. We were like messaging about this before, where I like Zoom. Obviously, you know what? Just I feel like me listing the things I know how to use makes me sound old. I just don't know how to use Skype.
I know how to use email. I know how to use PowerPoint and
USPS.
I know how to use. I can use USB device. Mouse. I know how to use mouse.
Oh god, I love mouse. Mouse is great.
Scanner's tough. It's new, but it's pretty tough. It's hard to get your head around. It's
of course.
If you need to scan a document. Also, I like Telegram is good.
Oh yeah. Not the like cryptocurrency thing. Like
like a singing
sending a telegram.
Like a singing telegram where the guy's dressed as a bellhop and he has a whole thing and then he says stop after every line.
Yes.
And you could kind of tell that guy like you're ruining the cadence of his speech by doing that, but
he doesn't care.
He doesn't care. He's just like I'm doing the bare minimum job here of just like reading literally what the words say, including the stage directions.
Wait, so you're in Somerville, Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, you ever?
Or am I not allowed to say that? I'm sorry, that was over.
Well,
you're 1653 Commonwealth, right?
Exactly, that's my address. Hope people show up here and demand things and.
Of course.
But also, I was going to say this, but not say this. I'm not the one blurring my background. You can totally see, well, whatever's happening back there. But
oh yeah, no. If you think I know how to turn that on or off, you're out of your goddamn.
I thought it was one of those things where, like, you know, I'm a public image. People could track my address by the inside of where I live and work backwards.
Yeah, that right there is a signed copy of Joseph Goebbels' headshot actually behind me. So I figured I would blur that out, and because I pay so much.
Well, there's a lot.
Go ahead.
No, nothing important. I was going to say there's a lot of like weird things, like clown makeup and stuff. Like just you're just like I can't have time to clean up all this blur. Like
well, here's the thing. I've been cleaning in here for 3 hours and I still have that much clown makeup. I still didn't have time to lift that up because I lived in Boston for a while. I went to Emerson. And my favorite comedy club, I think, just moved to Somerville, the Comedy Studio.
Yes.
And obviously, it's not open now, I would imagine. But, yeah, really cool place.
About that, that's how I think I know, or something we have in common, is I went to Emerson for grad school.
Cool.
Which is not the same experience. It's the we'll let anybody in because they're a paycheck or whatever. But then there's like, you know, they had the comedy majors. They have all that like film equipment for the undergrads. And I was like, I'd walk by that and I'm like, I want to be an undergrad so badly. I got all this boring stuff happening here where no one's trying to give me a job, but that's all I'm here for.
Right. Yeah, it's very odd. I think like getting a job through that thing is through that thing, meaning the college
piece of shit.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I'm still in debt from it. My credit score is just garbage right now.
It's crazy. I wish I knew how that worked. But I choose to turn a blind eye. But, yeah, Boston was. I did love Emerson a lot. You know, like it's a weird thing to say, but like there was a great stand-up comedy scene. Like at Emerson College, you know, like with Emerson students.
Yeah.
And, you know, like Boston was such a fun time too, like in terms of comedy.
Did you actually enjoy, like, did you perform around town in Boston or did you mostly like at school do, because they have like, I feel like Emerson has like a little bit of an insular space where
sure
it's a safe space literally, but like, it's like they have a comedy club to themselves. But, you know, only like a handful will go out and do like the actual inner city clubs where it's like, you know, it's real working class comedians and things. But
yeah, so I did. So I started in Philly, like when I was in high school. So I had been used to doing, you know, bad bar shows in front of adults, you know. So it was pretty much like so I kind of took that approach to, how do I get booked at like Rascals Comedy Club in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, you know, like, I like put a tape together. The tape was terrible, but like I knew how to like submit to, you know, these other rooms, I guess. And there was also kind of a novelty, I think, for bookers, because they wouldn't book me, I think, because I was funny. Like I may have had one like okay joke, but yeah, I would go to all the open mics. Like the Middle East had one that was a mess. Like, in terms of like, it wasn't the people's fault. It was just like that place was a mess. I rarely do Rogies like near Boston College, and then the Burren was really cool, and then but the Comedy Studio was a place where I was like, oh, this is the best. You know, like it was really smart crowds, very progressive crowds. It was just really, really fun. So that's a place where I was like, oh, I got like spoiled, you know?
Well, it's like people who are actually, I mean, there's one thing where it's like some of these clubs are just trying to make money and like try to, you know, whatever, they make a percentage of the drink sales. So they don't really care. Although there is those things where there'd be an open mic and you'd have all these kind of bitter comics that would like scare away all the people having a good time. Like the people on dates and stuff, they'd be like, oh, you people are all happy people. And like, I remember as an open mic, and one guy just literally walked everybody who was there from like they were there after work, having a drink, attending a comedy show, they're like positively expressing themselves, like facing forward. And then some guy was just like, what's your company, huh? I bet you guys, it's just like, leave them alone. Like they're there literally as not comedians, which is rare in some of those open mics.
I know. And by the way, my Uncle Joe just texted me and told me that I need to bring more energy. So I will try to speak very, very excited for this next portion. So there was one thing in Boston when I was there, and it was at a bar show called Sally O'Brien's. I don't know if they're still doing it over there, but that was actually in Somerville, Massachusetts, possibly near where you are right now. And at Sally O'Brien's was the best heckler line I've ever heard. It was very mean. It was horribly mean. Where there's a guy in the audience who was drunk. He just would not stop heckling this comedian. Horrible man heckler. The heckler was a really, really bad guy. And then the comedian said, he was like, had a line, and then the heckler kept heckling him, and the heckler, by the way, happened to have one of his eyes didn't work. And the comedian on stage said something, and then the heckler goes, oh, I can't hear you. And then the comedian said, oh, what do you hear out of that eye? And it was like the most devastating thing I've ever heard in my entire life. What did you hear out of that eye? And it was like, I was a freshman in college, and I was just doing that open mic. I'm sorry, I was going too fast there, apparently.
Well, I'm like, no, if your uncle is someone who's used to, like, back when they used to do, like, in the 70s when they did a lot of coke, and then you'd have, like, you know, all these fast-talking...
I was on coke. I'm not.
But you had to accelerate to, like, all right, let's do old-fashioned showbiz energy. Like Henny Young, like...
Yeah, right.
Like, too fast to even be enjoyed, you know? It's just like... It's like they're like all auctioneers. Like, they used to be auctioneers, and they got into comedy because it was more lucrative.
It is. You know what's funny? I don't think I've ever told this story before. My dad worked at a radio station in Philadelphia, and, I mean, you know, years and years ago, and Henny Youngman was a guest on the radio station, and like it was for some reason they couldn't get to it. Like he got there really, really early, so my dad went out to lunch
like 6 a.m.
Like
5 a.m. You guys open yet?
The previous night. And they went out to lunch at 6:30 in the morning, and but yeah, like Henny Youngman was apparently just super like quiet, laid back, very, very nice, very sweet. And then, you know, like as soon as like the radio turned on, he was like, you know, he was on.
So he's it's like that thing where he's conserving his energy, or at least like it's just it's an act. Like he just fast talk is my thing, and then like he goes back to like, yeah, I don't have to do anything for anybody. I'm just alive. Right. It's like which is like, hey, there's that. Which I feel like a lot of comedy is that, where it's like people they present this way and they're very affable and they're like, I'm going to say something terrible about certain types of people, but I'm charming, so it's received well. And then you go off stage and they're like not friendly to talk to, or like they're like closed off or cold. It's just like,
right.
Does it all have to be like bring only your good self to a stage, as opposed to maybe be okay off stage, but then like, you know, you can mix and match without being too needy off stage, but not too, you know, like a
It's
humanity.
Interesting too, where like Anthony Jeselnik is the opposite, where like on stage he's the worst person, you know, alive, and then off stage like very sweet, you know, like thoughtful guy, you know. And there's
humble.
I mean, I don't know if there's a bunch of comics like that. That might be unique to him, where for him I feel like it's more of the structure. Like I feel like he likes the structure and, you know, like the the like set up science and math of a joke, and it just so happens that the data he's uploading into it, it's like horrifically dark data. But, yeah, you're right. It is always interesting. I'm trying to think of comics who are the exact way they are on stage, off stage, and Todd can be that way, Again, I mean that in a good way because he's a great guy on stage.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I feel like that's why he has such lasting value. Because you're like,
oh, that's interesting.
Well, it's like he's a good whatever. It's like you listen to him talk on a podcast and you listen to him do stand up, and you're like, I'm not hurt by any of this. I'm not like it's all easy. It's all smooth feeling. It's all I don't know, thoughtful. His comedies is thoughtful. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I'm just like I absorb all these things through just listening in. It's like there's a sense of voyeurism to listening to a podcast, and then like how do you talk about someone like more than your own family in some way because they spend hours just sharing everything?
Yeah, dude, it's weird where like like when I first moved here, it was like well-known comic. I was super into his podcast, and then met him, like at a friend's place, and it's like, oh, dude, I know the name of your kid of your podcast, but you can't just be like, oh, how's Jonathan or whatever, because we don't. It is. I mean, I'm sure they probably have some immunity to it because like that happens a lot, but it is an odd thing to, and I think that's why podcasts are so great in terms of building an audience for yourself, as a comic, where they do like as a fan of podcasts, it's like, oh, I feel like I know this person and I like this person enough to keep listening, obviously, at the very least. So yeah.
Well, I thought there's like a personal connection, and then you're like, I'll give the person the benefit to get to where they're trying to get to by establishing who they are. Whereas like I feel like I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where it's like you get almost like identity or like public identity fatigue, where like you find out how terrible someone is in real life, or like how less, and then you're like, I can't listen to them anymore, or like I know that they're kind of a dick, or like they treat their people bad, so I'm like I can't watch. I have a hard time going back to a Chevy Chase movie because I'm like, this guy is a supreme asshole like everywhere, and like he alienated everybody. Even when he's on like a podcast, he's like making fun of the guests and the hosts, and I'm like,
he's a bastard. Here's a Chevy Chase story. When I first moved here in Los Angeles, I did like extra work, like background work, and it was great. It paid like $40 a day for 8 hours. It was amazing. Yeah. And and you were treated like shit. So Chevy Chase, I did Community, and Chevy Chase was one of the stars of that show. So really cool cast, very funny cast, very like famous cast now. And Chevy Chase was, like the fifth or sixth guy. So during takes, for those of you who like don't know, like after, like you go through the whole scene, you call cut, the director calls cut, you reset up, and then you do it again. Now, generally when you're setting up, the camera's like moving back and it takes like 2 minutes. Chevy Chase would waddle back to his trailer like in the middle of these scenes. So normally you don't even go to your trailer at all. Like, even when they're moving, like shifting the entire side of the shot. So, Chevy, first of all, it made the scene last like 18 times as long because they had to keep going to get him. And then he had to do more than 2 takes. And the director was like this new director, like up and coming, like really smart, nice guy. And he had to do more than 2 takes. So Chevy Chase in front of, there's probably like on a film set or like a TV set, including extras, actors, crew, like 100 people. And Chevy Chase kept embarrassing this director and going like, it's a lot of takes, Carl. It's a lot of takes. But then he did have this line that actually remains one of the funniest, like unintentionally funniest lines I've ever heard, where he just goes, we're not Hitchcock's pets. Like referring, I guess it is by the crows just hung out in cages. It was one of the what an asshole, but like we're not Hitchcock is like one of the funniest things. I guess that just goes to show why that guy kept getting work, where as much as a prolific asshole that he was, like is so funny.
He delivers like a straightforward energy that's just not unwavering.
Yeah, and often not for a good reason, but like if like in a film it's like,
the Coke.
Look at this hilarious asshole, but in real life it's like this guy's an asshole.
He's hyped up on Coke, and he's
Right.
he's charming on camera, but he's a monster off camera.
Total monster.
Well, that's one of those things where I'm like, how difficult can you get away with being, even if it's like he's like 70s comedy royalty, even though you can't watch Caddyshack anymore in this day and age. I don't know if you've seen it in the last any time, like recently.
I can imagine.
It's very racist.
Yeah, there's a lot. Well, I actually, this is going back to Todd again. Like, he has a great. I don't know if this is an original thought, but you can't be more trouble than you're worth.
Yeah.
I think is a really good way of doing it. I mean, the goal would be not to be any trouble at all, but if the moment you can be replaced by someone who's less trouble, like that's gonna happen. Whether or not stand up, acting, at your any like normal job, like if you have like a carpenter who's sick at carpenting but an asshole, but it's like, oh no, this guy can work with wood really well too. It's like, well, the asshole's gone, because why would we deal with that?
Yeah, and also you ever notice this thing, like, just like as an observer of like, you see people on TV, you see people on movies, every now and again you get two celebrities who kind of look the exact same, and like one of them's like, oh, he's that type that if this guy's unavailable, shove him in there. We always need one of those types of guys, where it's like, I don't know, there's like specific examples of that where I'm like, hey, if that guy's too difficult, this guy looks just like him. And what do we need? What else do you need from the guy other than to, like, if they're mimicking the same kind of energy or personality or whatever? Like, there's these duplicate people in society.
So funny. Yeah.
And some of them are pursuing acting, and it's like, oh, we have two people that look like that, like in Hollywood.
Oh, there's like 80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like these facial structure types where you're like, huh, like, who's that guy? He's like I'm gonna butcher the name if I'm trying to think of it, but it's like, it's almost like
Jonah Hill.
That's it. Yep, Jonah Hill. He looks just like Parker Posey. And why do you need both? You need two of those?
There's only room in one of this part. I don't know what the hell I'm saying.
One.
It makes sense.
I know. Well, now you're never going to be in a Jonah Hill movie.
Shit.
If you ever wanted to be in one of his...
Well, I don't know how to skateboard.
You don't know how to grow up in the 90s and have listened to hip-hop instead of alternative rock?
Is that movie good, by the way? I heard it's good.
I haven't seen it, but it's the same production company as that Bo Burnham movie, 8th Grade.
I really liked it.
That was really good.
Yeah.
Bo Burnham he's always been a boy genius, I feel like.
Just a guy who's so talented in that. God, I remember being in college, and I think he's a few years younger than me, like maybe a year or two younger than me, and I just remember being like, this YouTuber's sewing out theater. By the way, I was like bitter when I was 22, and I was like, this YouTuber sewing out theaters, and the guy like is just, a career like that can go one of two ways. You can become like, get content and not keep building your act. But I really think it is a weird thing to say. I'm very proud of Bo Burnham as someone like, who doesn't know him, but
yeah.
Like, this guy kept building on his act, was very smart, and now directed a very sweet, incredible movie. God, if I had like a daughter and I was watching that, or you know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine. Like, it was my feeling as just like a guy with like a girlfriend in a 1-bedroom apartment. I can't imagine being a father or like a parent watching that. So yeah, really, really good movie.
Yeah, it was really like I just feel like he's very empathic. And,
yes.
And that's, I feel like that's just one of the driving traits in comedy, where it's like, it's kind of not common. I mean, at least not depending on some places where you are. But it's like, right. I feel like that's such a vital, I don't know, it's personal taste. Some people love when people are like, I love that this guy hurts people's feelings. But then it's like, I don't know, I feel like an empathic comedy is someone who can go to bed happy afterwards. Like, you can be like, I don't know, like your soul is more, I don't know, it's just something more where you're like, maybe it's just human design, where it's like, I want someone who's like not a monster and they can also be funny just by virtue of creating stuff. Yeah,
this is a funny analogy, but we like when the pandemic hit and like quarantine and shit, we started watching the Great like British Baking Show. Yeah. And it is so positive and sweet, and sincere, where it is technically a reality show, but no one's an asshole. No one's like breaking each other's cakes. Like, everyone is so, like, they're helping each other, where someone's like really stressed out, like, oh god, I can't get the ice cream on the cake, and they're like, oh, let me help you. Like, these people love cakes, and it's my favorite show in the entire world. I'm like, oh, you don't need like some crazy lady throwing a bottle at some dumb man. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need someone like everybody screwing each other over. It is literally, I feel like, what did I say? I feel like it's like, morphine for your soul, where you just feel great. It's cakes. They're British. They love it. Everyone loves it.
There's not one trace of irony, but I feel like that's also
no irony. There is no irony at all in this show, and it's phenomenal.
I always knew one day I'd grow up to be a cake baker. Like, it's like all along, this is their calling.
Right. Like, the one quote asshole in the show is a judge who sometimes doesn't like the cake. He's not like, you're a failure, you'll never be a baker. He's like, everyone's a great baker, I just feel like your cake was dry. And
it's a little too much.
He said it was dry.
What a scathing critic. It's like
God.
You mean you use a tad too much fondant. It's like,
right. And
hey man, I have feelings too,
Exactly, and that's how sweet the show is. It's great.
That makes me think of, if that show was on VH1, it would be not that. I feel like that's the Netflix difference, but then also makes me think of, do you ever see the show Nailed It? Another cake?
Oh, no, but someone's told me about that, so it's a similar, but it is, reality showy, right?
Yeah, it's like, there's a format to it. It's like, I feel like that's what they sold, is that, it's a sustainable, reproducible format, but it's like...
Is it Italian food, or am I getting that wrong?
Close. It's a black lady. No, it's just Nicole Byer is the host of it, and it's cakes. It's the same idea, except not British, black lady.
Right.
But she's so bright and bubbly, and she's just her.
So funny.
It's just such a positive, just unrelentingly positive energy, and you're like, I love this. She's so cheerful, and then just the way she's and just the way she delivers, her voice is just melodically positive.
She's great. She's like a cheat code for comedy, where I've done stand up with her before, and she goes on stage and you're like, all right, well, no matter what, she's gonna do great.
Yeah.
She's that funny. She's awesome.
It's also that same thing of and I've heard her on a podcast. I feel like that's a good way to judge someone's character, is what are they like when they didn't write anything. And then it's she's got this story of her parents died young, and she you can see the path to where somebody was I'm going to live for joy. But then it's so then you watch and you're yeah, stumble over a few jokes. I enjoy your presence, and that's really what the kind of sustainability thing is. It's yeah, you can put jokes in here and do that, but it's yeah, I don't know. I enjoy when somebody is their being is a nice thing to consume.
Of course.
Like a cake.
Exactly.
I like,
like a cake.
When people are like cake is a good type of way to be. So, I don't know, were we talking fast enough for your uncle?
Yeah, no, he's cool now. Yeah, I haven't gotten any more tests.
You got his fix?
Yeah, you got his fix. You got the fast talk fix.
Because, I don't know if it helps, but it's 9 p.m. over here, and I'm, revving up on, a second cold brew, and mixed with an edible, so it's, I have the lubrication of mind to, chatter.
Right. Yeah, no, we have our dog's night walk in a little while, so that's on our agenda. So no cold brew.
Okay, yeah. Do you have a cutoff time or a?
Let's do another 10, 15 minutes. Does that work?
Yeah, I don't have. Hey, where am I going to go? Into the heat of the pandemic?
Yeah, I have a Gym Lives Matter protest that I have to get to in Orange County.
Yeah, I have to go to an I want to get a haircut now, damn it, protest.
Oh my god. Have you cut your hair yet?
I'm bald now. I never used.
Good for you.
I don't know if it's good for me, but I think maybe there's a certain amount of honesty in it where who wants to be bald necessarily unless you're choosing it? I've seen some cool bald guys that I've worked with that are confident sales managers and stuff, and they rock it. There's people that can pull it off, and there's there's almost a stamina to it, as Trump would say. But like, there's not to quote the gene.
That he clearly doesn't have. So yeah, I think having a beard matters a lot too. You know, like because that's the thing where like I think I have like a year and a half maybe left. You know, so like before like I start shaving it. So like. Yeah, I think as long as you can grow and like you have a good beard, so like I think as long as you can grow facial hair, you're fine.
Are you saying your hairline has a year and a half?
Yeah, I think so.
You're tracking that. You're like I can see it's.
I'm tracking.
You're like yes, you have a line drawn in each. You're this receded now.
I have actually a database for all of my insecurities, and I'm on top of all of them.
Let me open up hairy shins. Or let me open up why are my nipples so hairy?
Whose insecurity is hairy shins? Like, I have like a standard body hair length, but my goddamn,
maybe it's
between my knee and my ankle is out of control on the front.
Or is it worse? I think hairy is fine. It makes me think of like the kind of hair when you have like a Ren and Stimpy type of issue. You see a leg in Ren and Stimpy, and you're like, that thing's going to be hairy. But
right.
Or it's going to be the opposite, where it's real smooth and you can see your reflection in it. And then you're like, why does that grown man have such smooth shins? Does he wax them? Does he put lotion on?
You know what? I actually do have a theory on that. In that you will see old, like our dad's like generation. I'm not sure how old you are. So like I'll say my dad's generation of like, they don't have hair on their like lower legs, and I do think it's a tube sock issue. Where I think they wore socks that are so high that it like got rid of the hair on their legs.
I think that's it, because I think it's the chafing, and they say that like when you have like you wear pants all the time, it's constantly chafing your leg, and I think eventually you just go bald because it's like pulling on it.
Right.
My dad has this
khakis like in the summer. Like on their lawn, like to the beach, they would wear khakis.
They'd wear suits to like casual events.
Yeah,
or like businessmen, corporate people. I mean, my dad's like he worked, like he's a business guy kind of thing. Right. And like it's that thing where it's like you always have to wear a suit or a tie to work. And I'm like, relax. You're not dealing like. Can't you get on a phone in a t-shirt and flip flops? Like, who are you trying to impress? Like, you can do the same job with a relaxed outfit in the 90-degree summertime. You'll see an old man wearing a full 3-piece suit, and I'm like, your generation is not here to support that anymore. Like,
you're right. That's very well put. Yeah, it's just no one's marching for the suit anymore. Where I think it's also an
back
East
in my
Coast
day,
thing.
A dignified man wore a suit every day, even into like the beach.
God, it's so true. Where like, at least like one of the, they had those like short sleeve collared shirts with a tie that they'd wear under their suit. They'd wear that. They would leave the jacket, but everything else, loafers would still be on. Yeah. I think it's an East Coast thing too, where when I back to Emerson, finished at Emerson, they would do like you'd intern out in LA often. They had like this LA program, and I interned at Comedy Central. First day, wore a suit and tie, and they looked at me like I was gonna like commit an act of terrorism. Like they looked at me like I was so, because everyone there was like, oh, jeans and a t-shirt, because it's an entertainment network, but it's also West Coast. No one dresses up. Like everyone looks great, but also like shit at all times. So yeah. I showed up in a suit. They're like, they almost sent me home. They're like, you can't wear this.
Can't come to work like that.
No, you're bumming everybody out. Like you can't dress like this.
Man, you're harshing everybody's vibe.
Right, exactly. Yeah, big time. Yeah, everyone hated it.
I would love that. That's why I'm gradually like I'm shifting my being to LA, and I'm eventually gonna reckon with myself and say, once the pandemic is over, it's like, what am I doing here in the East? Like, Boston is not for me. It's
right.
Just the minimal, like, I'm in Somerville, which is as you experienced, like, it's a bubble, and like Emerson is a bubble, but those bubbles, there's a lot of not bubble in between those things. Whereas like you walk around here and it's like everybody is either Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. They are kind to their local person. They donate stuff and they recycle, and I don't know, but like there's that thing where it's like, yeah, but that's like the minority of stuff. Meanwhile, everyone else is burnt out and bitter and like chip on their shoulder, Johnson, and like, my name is Chip on my shoulder.
Like, right. Like Massachusetts is really weird, where it is, it's a very, very like a dark blue state, politically, but socially there is a lot of regressive shit going on. Where like I would do. A show, and a lot of state, like Pennsylvania's like that too, like where Philly and Pittsburgh are Philly more so, where I grew up is more like, liberal, but in Massachusetts in particular, the pockets are very well defined, like you just said, like a Somerville versus a Worcester, or like, enter other city here, like it is, but they all voted for the same, like they all voted for Elizabeth Warren for Senate, but like they don't like people who are different from them. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Somerville did, but the state voted for Biden, and I'm give me a.
Right, I forgot about that.
Well, it's like because there's so much not Boston in Massachusetts in the Midwest, and I don't even know what's going on over there. There might be people in cowboy hats over there. I think that there actually are people who wear cowboy hats. Like, you're not in the West or the South. You're just
in the middle.
In the middle of that.
Right.
But there's also like I feel like I describe Massachusetts or Boston as if a Republican was dressed like the Blue Man Group, like was wearing the blue latex, but underneath that is Dennis Miller.
Right. Oh God, dude! I remember I used to perform. There was a place behind Emerson. It's not there anymore. It was barely there when I was there. But
is it Sweetwater?
Yeah, Sweetwater was there, that bar. I believe it's part of the school now, but it was a comedy room where it was right behind Nick's Comedy Stop. Is Nick still there behind, like in the theater district or whatever?
I think it is. I've never done it because it sounded like it was too, like, I don't know. Like, I think I called there once and they're like, you have to bring 2 people and you have to buy all these drinks. And I'm like,
that sounds right.
Forget it. I mean, there's open mics that don't have rules like that, and
no, you spend $10,000.
You actually have to find our revenue for this year, and then you can get on stage for 2 minutes, and
you could pay my salary.
And we're not going to book you.
God, what was the event? So that's like right where the Blue Man Group performed, or at least they did while I lived there. And then there was another little room that was owned, I think, by the same people, or maybe it was different. It was called like Sophie K's Comedy Club or some shit, and like they had shows there. It was attached to the theater, like to the Blue Man Group theater.
Yeah.
And I've heard like comics do jokes about this, like Boston comics, but I'm just like giving you the story. So what would happen is you'd perform there, and the only rule that there was were you weren't allowed to talk about the Blue Man Group or acknowledge the Blue Man Group. And then on my life, I swear to God, to George Carlin, as Todd would say, a blue man, like in the Blue Man Group costume, like with full paint, full everything, just finished blue manning it up, walked through the crowd, like to go to the bathroom. And there was, so like when you're on stage, you have to, whether you like crowd work or anything, you do need to be in the moment as a comedian. Like that's the whole fucking thing. That's what live comedy is.
Yeah.
And you're performing, and then literally a blue man is standing and looking around in the audience, and you just can't bring it up. Like the audience was looking at the blue man and then looking at you as a comedian being like, are you really not going to fucking talk about this weird thing? And you keep going. So you look crazy. Like you would look so crazy as a comedian there.
Because
like,
it's the denial. It's the denial of reality.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe I am crazy and there was never a blue
There was never a blue man.
Like,
that was a lady.
That's LA.
He's still here.
He's everywhere.
He's my roommate. He doesn't pay all the utility bills on time.
No, you know what? I can't broach the subject with him. He's fucking nuts.
He's like, don't talk about me. It's the rule.
Crazy. Oh my God.
Well,
but I may have to go. Let's do one more subject.
Yeah. I mean, cool? I was even going to say, like, well, there's a couple things I was thinking of, but like, if you wanted to like launch into, I always wanted to like give comedians the opportunity to just let me Byron Allen at you, and then you just I'll serve the ball to you, and then you go, that's correct. Here's my bit, and then your bit, like that whole just obvious. Give me a premise, and I'll set you up like Byron Allen.
Okay. So, Blake, who are you quarantining with, and did you guys have any arguments?
Right. Hey, Blake. So, are you quarantining with anybody? And also, are you also having any arguments with any of those people that you might be quarantining with?
That's so funny you asked. Actually, yes. So, by the way, can we, real quick, you may have heard this on Todd's podcast before.
The supercut? This is kind of where I got the thing from, where I'm like, I mean, I knew about...
It was Robert Schimmel. Do you know who, so Robert Schimmel was this legendary comedian who, very tragically passed away, I guess, like a couple years ago. But, he, struggled with, cancer for a while. And he had, a bit about it. He was very, very funny comedian. Fucking Byron Allen goes, Robert, I hear you have cancer. Which did set up the bit.
He did have a bit of...
In someone watching it is like, fucking who talks to someone like that? It was so... God, and there was I think Norm Macdonald told this story where it was so it was getting older or something, and Byron Allen goes, hey, so Norm, I hear you're getting older. Everybody's getting older. You fucking put some effort into this goddamn show. But yes, I am quarantining with my girlfriend.
He owns the Weather Channel. That's just a small footnote.
Oh my God.
He is a businessman. He owns everything, but then on the surface, he has this public access show that's still on the air.
Yes. No, the guy's a fucking genius. So
let me remind
maybe,
you.
Hire someone to host your show for you.
Yeah. I would love that.
Or at least write it. So, yeah, I am quarantining with my girlfriend. She's amazing. I love her. We haven't fought at all. We did have one argument before, so late February, and she's perfect. She's beautiful. She's smart. That's not funny to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the one, 99.999% perfect. Her 1.001,000th point of a issue. She's not a details person, and I am. So she was buying something on Amazon, and for the quantity, she thought it was individual items. So she chose 15, but she accidentally chose cases. So a few days later, 15 cases of shit shows up at our apartment, and I'm like, we have no room for this. Where are we going to put this shipment? This is crazy. You need to pay attention to these things. And that was in late February, and a few weeks later, the nation shuts down, and that item, the shipment that she ordered, was I gave her a bunch of shit. I'm like, you can't do these things. You got to pay attention. It turns out the item that she got was toilet paper.
Of course.
So she had ordered 15 cases of toilet paper. Meanwhile, the world shut down. You can't find toilet paper anywhere. And a week before, I was like, you don't pay attention. You can't do this. So I go for my morning potty one morning, and there was no toilet paper in there. And I was like, hey, can you please bring some toilet paper? And she goes, yeah, I don't know if I can. I don't know if we have any. And I was like, that's very funny. I do need you to bring it. Leave it by the door. She goes, yeah, I don't know. I don't have time. I have to hop on a call. I'm like, please bring it in. And she couldn't just go get it because the toilet paper was in her car where I made her put it. So I was stuck without toilet paper. She brought it eventually, but that is the last time I ever correct her because she was right, and I will never hear the end of it.
That's an award-winning story right there.
Thank you. This was so much fun. Seriously, you're great. Let me know if you ever come out to LA, and then you messaged me a while ago about Boston. So if you're still there, if you're still living there, I'll definitely hit you up.
Yeah. Well, if you come by here and I'm here, assumingly this variety show will be back on a stage. It was a monthly, and it was kind of, it was at this new venue called The Jungle, which is this cool thing where they actually support the artist as opposed to being give us the money that your art brings us. That whole thing, it's owned by just a private guy who cares about music, and that's cool. And then also was starting to get into talks about doing it at Lizard Lounge. I don't know if you ever been there. Or it's a music venue.
I know the name of that. Yeah, I know. Where is that?
It's on if you were between Davis Square and Porter Square. Mm-hmm. Did you know where the Frog was, or Toad? It's a music venue.
Is this the amphibian reptile section of the city?
Yes.
We have lizard lounge and frog. And
yeah.
No, but I have lizard
well,
lounge.
It's very
it's
heavily segregated. It's a heavily segregated city, as you know. So, but
they keep all the scales.
But yeah, that's. I mean, it's mostly music, but which was good because it was like I do music and comedy, so it was like the music thing was cool. But I mean, as Todd or as you might experience, where it's like any place that's good for music is great for comedy, like aesthetically speaking. Yeah, so that was fun. But I'm talking too much about that. But also like so if you come by, I'd love to have you on the variety show. Like if you happen to do that. But also like I have money now. Like I got a job where it's like, hey, maybe one day I could actually afford to go somewhere, which wasn't the case, months ago.
Congrats, yeah, that's great.
So like I've always been like I've literally never even been to California, so it's like I gotta see it at least to know about it. And then so that being said, if there's anything going on there or whatever, it would be cool to connect or something like that.
Of course, absolutely.
And I also thought about moving to Philly, which I don't know if that means anything in the triangle of these 3 states, but like I was like, what's better than Boston? It's more liberal. And then Philly is like got comedy, it's got soul music, it's got Hall and Oates, which we don't. If you got to have one between the two, you want to have Hall for sure.
Right, but if you can have both, get both.
Get both.
Philly's the best.
But I actually went there for a day. Like I had a job interview there, and I just spent most of the day just being like, I just want to feel this town, and like went to coffee shops, and I saw Wawa's?
Oh yeah, that's the place.
And like, hey, it's basically like if you go to any part of Philadelphia or Pennsylvania where it's like there's Sheetz, which is like how they make a gas station a big deal, like because they have sandwiches.
Right, that's their thing. Yeah, any way you can fancify a gas station, is perfect.
But I don't want to like again I could keep talking or whatever, but it was great having you. I appreciate you making time to come out here for a whole hour, and hopefully we can connect soon.
Of course, dude. Absolutely. Good luck with everything. We'll talk soon, all right?
Yeah, man. Have a great night.
Right, stay safe. You too.
Enjoy that toilet paper.
I will.
Oh, yeah? All right. See you later, Blake. That was Blake Wexler. I didn't record that. Or maybe I did. Maybe, I don't know. Something. But I guess that might just be an audio version. As much as I've been trying to get some video out of this where I can. But that's fun. That dude's hilarious, and he's got great stories and great charisma. He's got a great headshot that he sent me in the middle of the conversation where I'm like, I don't know if I can put you in touch with somebody, but I don't know who I can put you in touch with. There's a person at the laundromat who might look like it, that might take a look at it, might enjoy what he sees there. So I'm trying not to do what I did last week, where basically I made a show last for 3 hours because there was 1.5 guests. No, there's 2 guests. I was just too chatty, and with 2 people, and when that one was already an hour, and then the second one's an hour, and then I just do a lot of bullshit between. Don't want to be too. I don't want to overstay my welcome. So play a few songs, and then we'll close this one out on time, and hopefully that's okay. Hope everyone's staying fun and safe and enjoying their Friday. Hopefully there's some uplift happening here. Hopefully the microphone levels are to everybody's liking. And hopefully the speech patterns are fast enough for you if you grew up during the highlight of the National Lampoon years. If you're there for that, were a lot of coke and racism happening around those times. Not a lot of great human behavior, unless you're listening to soul music, and that's where you got to go. Steer away from Caddyshack. Steer towards a song like this. How do you like that segue? Here's a song, but actually it might even be written in this earlier. No, it actually came out in '72, so I was right, you were wrong. Let's just put it that way. Gonna give myself some tuning here. F sharp. That's what you need to know. Though you may not drive great big Cadillac, gangsta white walls, TV antennas in the back. You may not have car at all, but remember, brothers and sisters, you can still stand tall. Just be thankful for what you got. Though you may not drive a great big Cadillac, diamonds in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with a gangster lead. Woo-hoo. Gangster white walls, TV antennas in the back. You may not have car at all. Just remember, brothers and sisters, you can still stand tall. Just be thankful for what you got. Diamonds in the back, sunroof top, digging the sea, the gangster lead. Woo-hoo. Now diamonds in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with a gangster lead. Woo-hoo. Diamonds in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with a gangster lead. Woo-hoo. You may not drive great big Cadillac, gangsta white walls, TV antennas in the back. You may not have car at all, but remember, brothers, sisters, you can still stand tall. Diamonds in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with a gangster lead. Woo-hoo. Diamonds in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with a gangster lead. Woo-hoo. Now, diamonds in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene, the gangster lead. Woo-hoo. in the back is not the name of the song. That's that thing where you think the thing that's sung the most is the name. It's actually called Be Thankful for What You Got by William Devon. It's a jam. It's a soul jam for those in need. All right. I'm not going to touch that song again. The one that I tried to play for the grocery store guy, which was not rehearsed enough. And that's just me showing you behind the curtains because I'm transparent. I don't go around telling you I think something's great when it wasn't, and I know it wasn't. What else could we get? I think maybe 2 songs. We call it a day. I'm actually a songwriter. I have a few songs that I don't think I've ever brought them on the podcast. But keeping with the vibe of the music here, I kind of write music in the fashion and format of the soul music I love. And before my dog has a meltdown for being neglected this long, I'm going to just keep it tight. I keep saying it, but I don't keep doing it. I'm also just stalling for time while I dig in a computer filing cabinet for this song. Just because I want to do it, you know, I just want to do it right. I want to do it the right way. There's the right way and the wrong way, and if you do it the wrong way, why are you doing it? You know what I mean? You ma'am, you sir, you non-binary individual between those two people, and they're all just going out and about together, just being fully representative of people. Okay. Let's see. That's how the song starts. It's me just doing a lot of incidental talking, and then there's a song there underneath it all. That's not it. I swear there's a song in there. Alright, maybe we just get the version where I make up some of the vocals where I didn't reference the actual lyrics. I'm just singing the other thing.
Doesn't
sweet tooth. So I call you up, but you're not home. Must be something going on. Call you up, but you're not home. Must be something wrong with us. Please don't be gone that long. It doesn't even last that long. Please don't be gone that long. It doesn't even last that long. Doesn't 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 last that. Please don't be gone that long. Doesn't even last that long. Please don't be gone that long. Doesn't even last that long. All right, that was "Don't Be Gone Long," an original. You can find my music on Spotify and all that on Spotify, because I said that twice. And it's SadBeard is the place to find it. Would love to record an album at some point, but I am afraid to go in a studio because there's a virus, more of a plague. I don't know if you heard. So I'm doing a lot of indoor recording, a lot of bedroom recording. So maybe I'll self-produce that and make just a thing. But I'll keep it digital because nobody wants to touch shit. They don't want to touch a object in this type of world we're living in. But all that's left to say is "Fare Thee Well," which is how we close all the songs, or even all the shows, with that song. If you detected any sort of thing on this show, it's that, hey, sometimes an edible goes a long way. And they say it kicks in around 2-3 hours, and hey, I'll say, don't let me tell you I wasn't peeking on it during conversation, and it was fun to do that while you can riff with a comedian. So that's fun to do. I'm stalling for time, I can't tell, while I track down our beloved tune here. That is a good one. All right. All right, everybody. If you know the words, sing along, and if you don't, mouth along and take it to your next recital. I Now fare thee well. Well, fare thee well, everybody. I thank you for listening. I thank you for staying present. That is all for this week's show. Tune in again next Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, because apparently we're coast to coast, baby. So do that. You can reach out to us at humanvarietyhour at gmail.com. And you can also visit humanvarietyhour.com, which is where you can listen to the show and download the podcast. And if you're so inclined to tip, you can do so on Venmo at Human Variety Hour. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe.
The